You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, everybody? You are here at the ground level for my new show, Kickin' It with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show. Sit back. We got two excellent guests for you guys this evening. We have Tom Hutchinson of Big Dog Inc., and we have Tyler James Vogel from Comics Launch. So sit back. You're in for an awesome show.
For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin' It with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
What's up, everybody? We are here. Chris Steichkel's in the house. Good to see you. All right, so today's guest is the first guest we have here is Tom Hutchinson with Big Dog Inc. So we can bring him on right now. And Tom, you are the first inaugural guest on Kickin' It with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Yeah, I gotta set that bar high.
Gotta set that bar high. Absolutely.
I gotta make this real tough for Tyler.
So, Tom, you just launched your Kickstarter a couple weeks ago. Can you do us a favor and share the link and tell us about your project?
Yeah, this is 2022. This is the 10-year anniversary for Ursa Minor. Really excited to get back to it. This is now starting volume 3 for Ursa Minor. It's old school horror. It's vampires, werewolves. Our lead character is the last of the werebears. It is blood, claws, and fangs. It is all the things that we love from, you know, the 80s horror that we kind of all, the 80s horror that we all kind of grew up with. And, you know, it plays on a lot of old horror tropes. It also sort of expands notions of werewolves and vampires and their connection to each other and so on. So it's a world that that we're obviously building ourselves, but it also exists in things that people already know. So it's kind of like, you know, sort of take the Legend of Oz, the Wizard of Oz book that we do. It's people understand what's there, but we've got new stuff for you to check out.
So Tom, you know, it's no accident that I asked you to come on the show because honestly, I probably would not be where I am doing what I'm doing right now if it wasn't for you. When I first interviewed you on my other show a couple years ago, Live with Onrie, I got a glimpse into what you were doing and how you were using Kickstarter as a platform for launching all of your products. And I've been carefully watching everything that you've been doing. And I'm just absolutely blown away by how you're just going from one project after another and just constantly knocking it out of the park with really high quality books. You know, the artwork and all of your books are just absolutely insane. And we did a Big Dog Inc. show last week on Kickin' on my shopping show, and it was just absolutely fantastic. So can you give us a little bit of a backstory of like how you got into this and, you know, how you kind of got to where you are now and where you kind of see yourself going?
Well, Kickstarter became sort of a, I don't know, I don't want to call it a necessity, but at the moment in time when we started doing it for real, I mean, we had kind of dabbled in it a couple of times prior before going full bore into Kickstarter. We had published ourselves at Big Dog Inc. for 4 years. We had moved over to Aspen Comics for 3 years. They became our publisher for 3 years. When they sold part of their studio to a movie studio, the focus was going to be on all the Michael Turner properties over there. So there was not really a place for us to keep publishing through Aspen. So when I came out of the Aspen deal, I had to figure out, are we just going back into Diamond? Are we just going to do the same old thing? Or are we going to maybe modify what we do and use some new methods? And the new methods obviously being, you know, crowdfunding, Kickstarters. And so I dove in. I said, look, let's, you know, the stuff that we did prior were new titles. People didn't know what they were. We had really mild success for those books. But I was like, well, let's go back into Kickstarter, but let's start with what we started with, 10 years ago. Well, it wasn't 10 years at that point, but it was close, with Penny for Your Soul. So we brought Penny for Your Soul, which was our first ever book, to Kickstarter, and it was a big success. We did a second issue. It did basically identical numbers, money and backer wise. And we did the third issue, and that's when we started to see the spike. And it spiked all the way through 7 issues that we did. And we knew that we kind of had at least enough to really push the platform now and bring our other books, and start to really kind of use this as our ultimate distribution form, because we were not in Diamond Comics. We were not in retail stores, unless the stores were the ones that were dealing direct with us, because we deal direct with retail stores. Jesse James Comics out in Arizona, Comics and More here in Detroit, Creative Comics in Indiana. There are stores that deal with us just directly. They just carry our stuff. Jen King, carries our stuff. So, but generally speaking, the distribution method was Diamond, and we decided we're not going to do it. And so far, that's now been about 5 years of just doing Kickstarters, and of course cons and live sales on Facebook and things like that. But our primary let's make comics is all through Kickstarter.
And this is I'm starting to learn it just as I'm kind of getting ready to do my next Kickstarter campaign, and obviously watching what you're doing. I actually want to say that a lot of it has to do from watching what you're doing. It is really helping me kind of like build that platform. And what we're both doing is CBSN dealers. Mm-hmm. I think is really kind of like giving us an edge in a lot of areas, because we're constantly engaging with people online. Every week we're on, and I see that even you're one of the most adaptable people I know in this industry. If I just message you and say, hey Tom, I need someone to come on a show, can you go and do it? You're on right away. You're ready to go. If it's never an issue for you. Is it about the amount of time that people see you online that you think it kind of helps the algorithm, or is it really just a matter of being out there and engaging with people and just having fun in this business, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, it's a little both. I mean, I being on, people that know me going back to the early days of Big Dog Inc. and stuff, they know. I mean, this was well before Facebook was a real thing and before Twitter was a real thing. Social media was very new, even when I was starting Big Dog Inc. 12 years ago. So it doesn't exist like it does now. People take for granted what they have the ability to do now with their phone, and we didn't have that back in the day. But I was never really comfortable like doing interviews like on camera. And so I did them, like I could do the interview, but I never watched it back. Oh my God, I sound like an idiot. This is terrible. And so doing the live stuff now, it's kind of given me a little bit of the confidence to be able to be like I can talk. I have something to say. I'm sure some people are going to grab something out of whatever it is that the conversation happens to be. And being on other people's shows. I mean, I do my own shows that goes to my feed, but being on other people's shows opens up my visibility of my products to whoever Onrie's fans are and whoever, Larry's fans are or whatever. So, there was this thing where they were doing like these online cons for a while over 2020, 2021. And people were like, well, nothing really happens, man. Nobody buys anything. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is not to make a sale right then and there. The point is to have your brand be expanded upon to somebody else's, friends list that may not even know that you exist. It's a long game. It's a long con, so to speak, to get yourself out there in multiple platforms, and then hopefully people find it and it just trickles down, trickles back. But you have to be consistent on your own, but to be able to bounce out and talk to other people can't hurt you.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that, because that's how I discovered a lot of the independent creators whose work I've had on, the people I had on my show before when it was virtual signings was, from doing interviews, even coming on your show. I think that's how I met William Samuel Quinton from 47 Furious Tales, was through doing one of your live streams that you had. And you're right. It's not, it's not necessarily about getting people to buy stuff right away. And I didn't get that either, you know, because for me, it's like, it's always been about the the immediacy of the transaction. Like when you're at a convention, you're sitting there and you pitch someone your book and they either buy it or they don't. And it's like, you got everything right away. But there's a limitation to that too, in a way, because once they buy your book, you never know, unless you get their email. And even if you get their email, there's not really a high chance that they're necessarily going to read that email. It might go off, but like when you're on social media, everybody's using social media like all the time. Granted, it's email too, but a lot of people tend to, like 90% of like the emails that we get kind of like just get thrown off into the garbage. But
sure,
when someone sees you all the time, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just did a live video today. I'm sitting here working on the Ursa Minor campaign, just doing some updates, and I just turned my phone on. I'm like, okay, I'm just sitting here at the computer, so I might as well turn it on and just chat with whoever's there and tell them what I'm doing, and then they can ask questions if they have questions. And it's, I don't know, it's like 10, 15 minutes of just, shooting the breeze, and then I was done. So, and then I knew I was doing this thing later today, and tonight, I don't know if I'm going to do anything tonight. I might be done tonight, but it's entirely possible I might just throw something on and just be like, okay, let's just hang out tonight. So it's not always about sales. It's just about connecting with the people that you want to connect with and who want to connect with you.
Yeah, and the one thing that I find, that I appreciate the most about our friendship, is that you're always somebody who's a straight shooter. So if I come to you with a question and, I'm uncertain about something, particularly in this field, you're going to tell me exactly what I need to hear. And you're very approachable. It's easy-going,
Usually those two things don't go together, right? It's like,
yes.
Tom just tells it like it is. He's an asshole. But no, Onrie's like, no, he's I'm very approachable. I will tell you what you want to hear.
Sure.
And some people will take that as like offense, and I'm like, no, this is not offense. This is just like, this is what it is. I mean, you got to understand whatever your question is. This is, at least from my perspective, this is your answer. And that answer is either going to be a happy answer or a sad answer or a think about it answer. And not everybody can handle the sad answers.
Well, that, and that's honestly, that's my weak point when people come to me for advice, because I always want to try and, help people out. I always want to give the good answer. I always want people to walk away smiling and thinking that they can do it.
Well, there's always a good answer. There's always let's look at this, and this is good. But there's also but you got to look at this too. You never want to just give like negative. Even when I do like portfolio reviews, I mean, like 9 times out of 10, I know I'm not going to see anything that's of any value to me. But I don't want to just come in to whoever this portfolio is and be like, you're not even close. Take this off my table. I want to look at what they're doing. I want to examine something and give them something to take home with them. Like, okay, hey, look, I like what you do here and here, but you got to work on your anatomy. You got to work on your storytelling. You got to work on, whatever it is. But you got to always give them something because ultimately you want them to keep going. I mean, there's you want to encourage while also critique. And some people can do that, and more often than not, I hear these horror stories of, I showed my portfolio to a guy and he told me it wasn't worth his time, and I'm just like, yo, that's crazy. Take a couple of minutes and encourage an upcoming artist, and and then tell them what's wrong with what they do.
Well, it's interesting because I spoke with another creator who had had that experience, right, where someone said, don't even bother pursuing a career in comics.
I got told that.
And yeah, we've all been told that, right? So eventually, of course, he kept going. That didn't dissuade him. And he came back to that same guy, and he said, it's been a couple of years. Here I am. I'm still here. And the guy's like, well, good. If you listened to my advice, then I would have been right. So, you've proven me wrong. So sometimes I kind of see those kinds of that kind of approach as sort of like a challenge almost.
Sure.
Because, you're going to get rejected no matter what.
And some people take the challenge and some people don't.
Yeah.
And that's just a reality.
Now in Kickstarter, it's kind of different because like you're getting backers, but they're people who, you know, punch out at certain points, like key points. And, you know, that, I mean, that's kind of like rejection. Like how do you,
it's not different. It's not different in any capacity. It's still essentially taking your portfolio, putting it out, letting people look at it and talk about it. And except in this case, they can potentially actually buy the thing as opposed to just being, here's my art. But it's still the same thing. You're putting out the art on the campaign. You're saying, here's me, here's what I do, here's what it is. And people can decide yes, no, maybe. It's exactly the same thing. Well, not exactly the same thing, but it parallels the idea of you know, just pitching yourself like at a con. You're literally pitching yourself to an audience of buyers. And so there are people who will succeed on the higher side. Let's say they make, you know, $20,000. There are people who will succeed on the lower side. Let's say they make, you know, 2,000 or 3,000, but they funded their campaign. And then there'll be the people that don't fund at all. And then all of those people have to go back to work and figure out what worked, what didn't work. And particularly for the people that funded lightly or not at all, they have to figure out like, okay, what are the legitimate critiques of what I did? Why did I not do what I expected to do? Is the art not good enough? Is the story not good enough? Is the covers not good enough? Was my presentation not good enough? You know, just the presentation of the campaign. So everything is always pitching yourself or your product, what, you know, however you want to look at it. But all of that parallels through every aspect of making comics, whether you're at a con trying to get a job with a publisher or an editor, or whether you're just doing it yourself and just saying, here it is, here we go, tell me what you think.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a commercial break, a really short commercial break. Folks, if you're watching the show right now, we're going to come back and we're going to start looking at some of these comments here and responding to them. So if you guys have questions for Tom, you can ask them. You can also go to his Kickstarter campaign right now. We've posted the link and support his campaign. I'm going to do it as well. So come and join me on this. We'll be back in just a moment after this commercial break.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time. Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. For years, I have traveled the world slinging my creator-owned comics at the biggest and hottest cons. Now I'm sitting down with creators who have active crowdfunding campaigns happening right now, and I'm opening the gateway so that you can connect with them and support their work. You're watching Kickin' It with Onrie, the live crowdfunding show.
And we're back. All right, so let's start going through some of these comments. Chris is asking, Onrie, are you feeling better? Ish. I got a convention I'm getting ready to go do tomorrow, and I had to put everything together today. So I'm kind of loopy right now. And Tom, I'm sorry about that. I'm a little, I don't know, I got something, but I'm here.
Yeah, the con season is on us again, man. I got invited to go down to Suncoast Comic-Con. I'll be down there in a couple weeks with Marissa Pope, Mike DeBalfo, April Reyna, Jen Broomall. So it'll be my first Florida appearance in about a decade, which will be cool. Cool to get back there.
Yeah, awesome. And then Chris is also saying Big Dog Inc. is excellent. Yes, they are. They have excellent books, and we actually stock some Big Dog Inc. stuff. And Tom, next time I see you at a con, I'm going to have to stock up from you. And I mean, we could even work something out before that. Actually, I think now the best way to stock up and support Big Dog Inc. is to go to the link that we posted earlier. If you just scroll up in the comments, you'll see the quick link to Tom's current Kickstarter for Ursa Minor. And JD Smith is actually responding to something we said earlier about asking people to buy stuff. And, he said, you got to buy some of us dinner first before you can bet our money's Onrie. Yes, I understand that now. I gotta sweeten the deal before you loosen the kimono. I get it. And then exactly, excellent feedback can go in and out the ears. It's only negative. I need to know what I'm doing is right, so I don't spend time trying to fix what works. Yes, This is true. And then we got Joe McPhee in the house. He's saying, "What's up, Onrie and Tom?" And then Larsman said, I just checked out the Kickstarter and the art inking looks incredible. Yes, it does. Tom, tell us a little bit about the art on Ursa Minor. Who's working on the interiors of the book?
Well, Fabio Samau, this is the art right behind me. Fabio Samau is the artist of the book. This is the cover for the book, but it's also the interior art. So when you go to the campaign, you'll actually get to see some of his art on its own, just the pencil lines. And then you'll also get to see the colors by Chuck Obach. Miracle team put together roughly around January, and they have absolutely crushed this campaign. We have, of course, variant covers from some of the best in the business: Mike DeBalfo, Ryan Kincaid. I'm going to forget all of the names now. Brian Peterson, MR Gunn is back with us. Loving MR Gunn. Who else do we have? I can't even think of who's on there. I'm so blanking on everything, but it's just tremendous. Paolo Pantalena, Nia Rufino. I mean, it's a huge list of amazing creators. We have a Keith Garvey cover dropping tomorrow as an add-on as we start week 2. That's the crazy thing, is we're only at the end of week 1, and we've already done essentially about $500 less than we did the entire campaign for Ursa Minor last time. So, we did 17.5-ish for the entire 3 weeks. We're already over 17 on our final day. So this has been a wild ride. We've actually even unlocked, we did something different this time. We had a level 2 stretch goal that we added. So anybody that's paying $75 or more to the campaign had an opportunity. We would unlock a brand new BDI title. It's called It's Only an Island. If you look at it from the water, it is a Jaws homage type of book. And I figured it would take at least a week to 10 days to unlock this bonus book. They unlocked it in 4 days. So it's just like, wow, wild, crazy. I mean, I had no idea this book was going to take off the way that it's taken off. I can't say thank you enough to everybody that's been in there. We got over 220 backers already. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Christian, what's up, man? Good to see you. Do me a favor. Scroll up and you'll see a Kickstarter link. This is the Kickstarter for my man Tom Hutchinson with Big Dog Inc. He was just talking about his new project, Ursa Minor, that is on Kickstarter currently. So be sure to check it out. And the artwork is beautiful. So let me understand this right. As a stretch goal, you're giving people another comic for free.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
We have a little 8-page preview of a brand new title that we're doing. And we're going to do that 3 times this year. We're going to do that in July with a book called Sand and Scales. And then we're going to do another one in October for an as of now unnamed book. I haven't decided which one it's going to be, but I have all kinds of stories in my brain. And so I want to start getting some of these things out into the public, kind of like what we did with Princesses versus Zombies. I had this idea. We want to see if people dig on it. But instead of just doing its own sort of campaign, we're just going to try and load up, instead of having all these little tiny, like here's a trading card and here's a sticker and here's a whatever, here's a comic, guys. We're going to go a little bit bigger. So you're going to get a few, less, you're going to get less little tiny items and more actual valuable content, which is an actual comic book. So that's what we're trying to do this time through. So we've modified our system a little bit, and it blew up. Like I said, 4 days. I was expecting at least 10 for it to unlock.
So Tom, you're building out this universe, so to speak, of, you know, stories that you want to tell, essentially, but particularly like with Critter, your superhero story, and Catnip, which is like sort of like the anti-version of Critter. You know, I gotta say, man, I envy that so much, and that's really kind of like what I'm building towards too now. And I just gotta ask, as someone who's already doing it, how does it feel to be able to have the control and ability to constantly be building out this larger universe, kind of like, you know, doing your thing?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. It really is. I mean, and it's time. It takes time. You know, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the books. You have to put out the content in order for that to happen. And like when I was doing some of the Legend of Oz stuff on this last script, I realized as I was writing, I was like, oh my God, we're actually doing what old comics used to do. We're flashing back to what happened, 20 issues ago, and sort of taking some of those old story points and running with them in the current storyline. And that was really, really exciting. It was really fun to do. Critter, Penny for Your Soul, Legend of Oz, these books all have nearly 30 issues worth of content. And all of these stories that when I wrote them were just threads, are now starting to knit themselves together. And it's so amazing as a writer to be able to finally do that and give your readers, like, remember this? Well, this is why it all happened. And you put it all together. And it's great. It really is an amazing feeling. It's really fantastic. And that's why we wanted to keep pushing and pushing and sort of, keep modifying how we do things, till we can find sort of the ultimate form of, how do we do a Kickstarter? What do the people really want? Do they want a bunch of trading cards? Okay, guess what? We'll give you a bunch of trading cards. But if you'd rather give up, 4 or 5 trading cards to get a comic, let's do that instead. And that'll help us expand all of Big Dog Inc., all of our storytelling, all of our genre bases, which touch on virtually everything at this point, from superheroes to Westerns to, sci-fi to fantasy, kaiju, historical fiction with Antoinette. I mean, we're everywhere from a genre standpoint. So it doesn't matter what you like. We have something that you're going to want to read.
That's awesome. So Christian Zaffo is saying, I think what's good with the BDI books is strong stories, great promo, and all the amazing artists are comparable, which creates visual continuity as well. I agree with that 100%, Christian. And Larsman says continuity matters. I will have to check your stuff out. So looks like hopefully we got you at least 1 or 2 new backers on your campaign, and hopefully you can, hit your goals and far exceed them. I think by the end of this campaign, hopefully you'll see bigger numbers than you did with your previous Ursa Minor campaign. But we got 2 more minutes before we bring the next guest on. So you got any closing statements, anything you want to mention before you head on out?
No, just hit us up on our social media, guys. Follow us wherever you follow us. I'm on Facebook. We have a Big Dog Inc. page on Facebook right here. You see the Big Dog Inc. Go to the page, follow it, follow me. Twitter and Instagram is BDI Comics. However you want to do your social media, do it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Big Dog Inc. We just picked up 2 new patrons today. You get all the backstage access to watching everything be built. You get access to exclusives that no one else gets, including the return of Blue Jay, which is our first web comic style thing that is exclusive story on Patreon. So there's a lot going on over there too.
Tom, I want to thank you very much for being here today and for helping me inaugurate the show. I couldn't think of a better person to have come on for the first episode. You've been a huge inspiration to me and continue to be so. And I wish you the best of luck with your campaign. And you can bet your shoes that I'm gonna back it. So best of luck to you with everything, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invite as always.
No problem, man. All right. Take care, my brother. All right. So our next guest, I hope he's here. If he's not here, I guess he'll be here in a moment. But I am currently taking his class, Comics Launch. And the reason why I wanted to bring him on here is because he has constructed a really fantastic like multi-course class on Kickstarter, and I think having him on will be a great way to give you guys some added information. Let me see what's going on here. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here and see where he is. Well, in the meantime, you guys can see me, so we can talk if you guys want to mention anything. And be sure to check out Tom's campaign.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. Oh, Tom's back. Tom's back.
Yeah, I just shot Kyle a message. I was like, I can fill time.
Go ahead.
Be late.
Fill time.
That's
fill
not
time.
fun.
Go ahead.
We're happy to stay.
Yeah, no. Please go ahead. Fill the time. We got it.
Well, this isn't like a stand-up comedy routine. I mean, we got to
no.
Figure
please,
something else to talk about.
Give us your stand-up routine.
I mean, if anyone's got questions in here about, how do you do Kickstarter, like, or from a creative standpoint, or how does it work from a fan standpoint, like a buyer standpoint, we're happy to answer like the technical questions as well. If you got questions about Big Dog Inc. or any of the books, this is what we're here for. This is what we do. And so here we are until Tyler comes in or the show is over. I'll just hang out.
I guess we'll just hang out here. Ridiculously early Super Bowl picks.
We don't even need to have the draft yet, dude. I mean, listen, I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. Last year, my 2 picks went down in the championship round. I had it as the as the Bills and the Bills and the Buccaneers, and both went down championship rounds. Actually, I think the Bills went. Yeah. So I was close. I was really close last year. I will tell you this. The Buccaneers are not going to make the Super Bowl. I will tell you who's not going to get there. The Buccaneers are not going to get the Super Bowl. I don't care about Tom Brady anymore. That's over. Tom, go retire. Hang out with Gronk. It's over. That's over. There's no Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, Tom, since we are here to talk about crowdfunding campaigns, I do have a question. I remember seeing you on an interview at one point, and you were saying, just keep hitting that launch button. Is there something to be said about that? Like,
what do you mean hit the launch button? What do you mean?
Like, just keep going back. Every time you do it, you're going to build more, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And is it a matter of just not being afraid to go back to Kickstarter each time you have something new to put out there?
I mean, Kickstarter is the best way for anyone to get eyeballs on their project in an instant. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but the instant you launch something to Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever you're using, there is a built-in audience of people that go to those sites and check things out. I mean, you can go on Kickstarter right now. There's a ton of product, but it's within norms. It's within, I've got 250 campaigns running right now. That's normal. That's high side of normal, but it's normal. But you're going to see all kinds of stuff. You're going to see guys like Brian Polito are on there. Well, actually, he might be done now. Or maybe tonight. Brian Polito's on there. I'm on there. JT Molloy is on there. Rob Multari is on there. You're going to see all kinds of dudes that have been doing this for a while and being successful at it. And then you're going to see all kinds of people that are new at it. And, some might be struggling. Some might be surprise hits. But there is no better and faster way to actually get a response in some capacity to whatever it is that you're making than by putting it on crowdfunding, because again, the buyers are literally right there, and they will determine whether they think that you have something that they want. I mean, that's how it works.
So Christian asks a question. He's saying, I'm having a hard time moving people to my website from social media. Any advice?
No, to be perfectly honest. I would say just make sure that your website has all your social links so that the people can get to them very, very easily. And there's not a lot of like, well, I have to go here and I have to go here. Just have that Facebook button, have that Instagram button, let them click it, follow, done. Easy is always better. The less amount of clicks they have to do, the better it is. But some people just like websites. Some people just like, I know a lot of people that aren't on Facebook. They don't do social media. So there's a lot of people that are just happy with your website. And if that's the way that they want to follow you, then you got to just, make sure you have content for them to see.
JD Smith is asking, how are books published independently via Kickstarter, Indiegogo? How do they get valued when talking about collector items?
Everything is hype, right? Even in the larger scheme of like Marvel and DC, everything is hype. But hype doesn't always last, even with Marvel and DC. I mean, there's stuff that was books that were hundreds of dollars last year that you can get 20 for $30 now. Same thing goes with indie books. The key to maintaining from a collector's point as far as value is, again, we go back to that consistency. As long as the book keeps coming out, that allows more people to put eyeballs on the book for the first time, potentially. Those people suddenly are like, oh, Penny for Your Soul was 12 years old. I want to go see what the old books are. Suddenly, there's more people looking for those old books, and that drives the price up. It's supply and demand. So when you have 200 copies of a book that exists and 500 people want it, the price goes up. You have 1,000 people want that book, price goes up again. So again, it's the more people that are aware of what you're doing, they want to collect, they want to go find the old books. That drives the old books prices up.
And that's something I want to say that you're very accommodating with. Like, at least for me as a seller, it's like I see exactly how many copies of said book. Like I have a Blood Foil Ursa Minor book. Mm-hmm. There's only 50 of them in existence. You even numbered it. So
yeah, when we do our super fancy stuff, we number them. Otherwise, we'll have it just say right there. We got 600 of them, and that's how we do it. But when we do the super fancy stuff, we serial number all of that. Yeah.
Here's a great question. Is Tom published NFT versions of his books a la Crypto Comics Marketplace?
No. Listen. I don't like digital comics in general. To be publishing NFTs is nonsense. That's nonsense. There is a whole lot of... Listen, if you guys want to talk about NFTs, I want you to do something. Go talk and listen. You're not going to talk to him because you're not going to talk to him. But go listen to Gary V. Gary V talks all kinds of business and collectibles, and he's very into the NFT thing. He will tell you, just like I will, he'll tell you the real shtick about NFTs, how they work, why they work, and what is going to fail and flop. Go talk to Gary V. Follow him about your NFT stuff. But as far as Big Dog Inc. in the NFT space, it's not going to happen, guys. Not at least in the capacity that's happening now, where there's this sort of gold rush happening right now of, well, oh my God, we got to publish some digital art so we can make $1 million. Like, Jesus Christ, all that so much of that is going to just fall by the wayside. Again, go talk to Gary V. He'll talk to you about NFTs.
And I mean, about that, it's kind of like, let's look at how Kickstarter kind of began, and I was just talking to another creator last weekend who was very like almost kind of looking down on what Kickstarter is for.
Sure. Like, there's plenty of people that do that. Do you know who those people are? They're the people that haven't figured it out.
Yes, exactly.
And that's, in some cases, that's the case with NFTs too. It's like, I realize that I'm one of the guys that hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's figured it out. I don't know what it is.
Correct.
Like, I don't know what this, like, I've had someone pitch me their NFT for like, well, actually it wasn't me, it was Ted Sikora, but they pitched Ted for 30 minutes and he had no idea what was going on. Ted was trying to get me to hear the pitch, and I'm like, no, I refuse to hear it. And, I was trying to kind of run in for him. But we got another question here.
Yeah, this is a great question.
From Joe. Do you think some creators cause false speculation value simply by limiting the print run, creating value through rarity where there is not a true demand?
100%. Yes, 100%. However, that doesn't discount the idea that if you make 50 copies of something, that there aren't 500 people that want it. So yes, but that doesn't discount demand. Demand will always flatten a price out. If something is $100 and there's 50 of them and 10 people want it, the price will deflate because they can't sell the product. That's just supply and demand. That's what comics are. But if there's 50 of something and 500 people want it, the price will find whatever plateau it's going to find. And it'll sit there, more or less indefinitely, I guess, until 1,000 people want it. So yes, that is 100%. The just creating lower quantities automatically increases demand, because if you make 10, there's probably going to be more than 10 people that want it. But it doesn't guarantee anything. I've seen plenty of things that were like, oh, there's only like 50 of these, and they're like $10 because the demand didn't sustain. You can hold demand for a couple of years, and then if the book just kind of flattens out, no one cares about the book, then no one cares about the variants, and the prices just deflate because the demand goes down. So it's kind of a multi-layered thing.
That's an interesting. That's a very obvious, not obvious, but it's a very clear way of explaining that. Because if Joe would have asked me that question, I don't know if I would have been able to explain it as clearly as that. Because you're right, it is supply versus demand. Like if I have a copy, like the JLA Avengers book that just came out, they only printed up 7,000 of those. Well, of course they knew that more than 7,000 people would want that book. And of course there are going to be people out there that are going to be speculating and are going to want to flip that book. And, that's just the natural order of things. I mean, everybody's trying to survive and make a buck.
Sure.
Christian's asking, I think that Kickstarter, the limited runs also help with funding requirement.
Sure. Yeah. Because obviously if you're making fewer of something, the price is going to be higher. I mean, that's just scale. If you can make 1 million of something and you can sell 1 million of something, you can take your price point down. But if you are going to make 100 of something, you have to put in all of your costs. How much did it cost for the art? How much did it cost for the colors? How much did it cost for the printing? How much does it cost to ship it? You have to put all of that into the retail price in order for you to get a retail price that makes sense. You can't just sell it and break even, because then you're not accomplishing anything. So, if you make 200 of something and it's $20, then if you make 100 of something, it'll probably be $40.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to this whole thing of, how Kickstarter was initially viewed as being like this, place where, and I used to have that same feeling, like this was what, 10 years ago, which
is basically when it started.
Yeah. And I didn't want to do it because I kind of felt like it's like, begging people for money,
Right.
That's initially how I saw it. But now, obviously,
that's how everybody saw it initially. Well, except for Gary Vee, right? There's those Gary Vee people that got it. And then the rest of us had to catch up. Yeah.
So at what point for you did you kind of look past that? Because you started hitting Kickstarter at what point, 2015?
No, 20. Yeah, maybe something like that. And we just did a test. It was Lights Camera Jungle, brand new title. We were just like, let's just play with this Kickstarter thing and see how it works. Then we did Kaiju Epic the next year, and then the following year we were in it full time. But yeah, it took me a while to figure out that this was not just a please give me money, because it's not. That's a GoFundMe. A GoFundMe is I need money, please help me. Whether it's my car broke down, I need hospital bills, whatever. This is a sales platform. And that's what I didn't really understand until I really started looking at it. It's a sales platform, really no different than Diamond, where Diamond puts out a catalog. They have so many books. You look at them, you order what you want. They come out in 2 months. That's essentially what Kickstarter is. Obviously sometimes it takes longer than 2 months, but same idea. You look at something, you're pre-ordering something, it shows up whenever it's ready, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, once I kind of figured out that this is a sales platform, a marketing platform, that's when the light sort of went off and I was like, oh my God, I understand what's going on now. And we started to really dive into it.
Mm-hmm. So Joe is saying, going back to the JLA Avengers thing, but the problem with the 7,000 new JLA and Avengers copies is that that causes a speculative value for the new copies while driving up the value of the original printing of the other versions. And yes, that's true. Actually, I had a set of those that I was able to sell for a much higher value because of that. A couple weeks ago.
But see, the speculator part of that was not really the book itself. It was because we're about to lose George.
Yes.
This is a whole different thing. There's a lot of layers to the George Perez aspect of this, but it's a book that people like even before they did the reprint. So it's not like it was a valueless book to begin with. But and I'm not sure of the differences. I haven't seen the books. I don't know what the differences are from the original to this, but everything can be hyped. Everything can be turned speculative. Everything. It's just a matter of the marketing aspect of it to get the word out that, hey, this is coming, be ready for it, and then it's like, holy shit, do we need this thing? Oh my God. And then you've got the hype, and once the hype's going, then eBay's going and everything's going, and
and Will Smith smacks you out of nowhere.
And then that's correct. That's right.
and now there's so much speculation. Actually, I wonder if someone's going to do a variant cover of that. Like,
I guarantee you it's already in the works from someone.
It's already in the works.
Guarantee you. There's way too many homages in this industry. Like that's it's like people feel the only way they can sell something is to make it an homage, and God, it drives me crazy. But people do what they do, and fine, that's their thing. But man, make your own brand, guys. Listen, I want you to make covers of your own that are so cool that other people are homaging you. How's that? Right? That's gotta be the goal.
That is the goal. That should be the goal.
Yeah, not you being like, what can I homage next? Like, if you're gonna do an homage, do deep cuts. I mean, I love deep cut homages. Like we did one for Penny for Your Soul, homaging Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the Phoebe Cates, pool scene. Like people saw that and their brains melted. They were like, why didn't I come up with that? I'm like, because it's a deep cut. It's something that we all know, but it's not being done by everybody. Do some of those deep cuts, man. Get really, really deep in your pop culture. There's so much out there that you can really have some fun with. Don't do the same thing that people are doing everywhere else.
Well, here's something I want to ask you. Being a comics creator, what are some of your inspirations as a comics fan? Like what kinds of stuff are you reading currently, or what?
This will sound weird. I don't read anything currently. I don't have time to read much. So usually when I'm reading something, if it's fairly modern, it's because I grabbed the trade paperback at some point, because okay, I want that. I want to get the trade paperback. I want the story, but I don't have time to do monthly, weekly, go to the store, that kind of stuff. My closest store is 45 minutes away. So just from a driving standpoint, I can't do that, especially with $4 a gallon. But I still collect comics. Most of it's all old stuff. I collect a lot of things from the 70s and 80s, mostly some 90s stuff. Chris Claremont, everybody asks, who's the guy? It's Chris Claremont. I mean, that's got to be the guy for probably 90% of writers of my age is Chris Claremont. That guy was such an influence assuming that they read the X-Men, of course. He did other things, certainly, but the X-Men was such a gigantic, in fact, somebody had a thread on Facebook the other day. They were like, basically Chris Claremont created the X-Men. I'm like, no, let's not take it out of Stan's hands there, but Chris Claremont reinvented the X-Men.
I think he established the X-Men as we know them for sure.
100%.
Like Stan Lee's X-Men, those characters are still implemented. I mean, Magneto obviously is.
Yeah, but they're not what we know now.
No. And
they're not recognizable now. Yeah.
No.
And so with Chris, if you read Chris Claremont's work, you're not just reading books, right? You're not just reading comics. You can hear that stuff in your head. You can hear Cannonball, I'm nigh invulnerable when I'm blasting. You can hear it when you're reading the thing, and to me that was always like special to me. You could hear Rogue's accent. You could hear Storm's more calm approach in her words, chosen dialects, and so on. Claremont is it. Claremont is the top for me, without any question.
And I think he's the top for a lot of people. But, here's something that's interesting is that I think a lot of good stuff. I think there's a lot of great stuff coming out even now. And you gotta look for it. And honestly, I've been enjoying a lot of stuff that I've been coming across, like for Marvel recently. Like the new Doctor Strange has been great, and She-Hulk has been fun too. And I think this whole and you and I have had this conversation too about as independent comic creators, it's like, what is our goal? Is it do we want to try and stand out and be brilliant like Alan Moore kind of a thing? Or, whatever you consider Alan Moore, or do you really want to have fun with what you're doing?
Whatever you consider
Alan Moore. As soon as I said Alan Moore.
Controversy,
yeah. You gotta, but we gotta stop everything we're doing and take his class. Otherwise, you're not going to be a better writer.
I mean, I think ultimately this is an interesting. This should be its own show, really. There was one time I was at a panel, and I'm not going to say who this writer was, but it was a panel of writers, and somebody was asking about. I don't remember what the question was, but basically, this guy who is a rather well-known writer in comics, he's also done TV, animation, stuff like that. He basically told this panel and everybody in the room that story doesn't matter. And I sat there because I was on the panel with him. And I sat there like, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? And basically, he went on to say that at the end of the day, entertaining your audience is more important than having some massively significant story. And that has really stuck with me for a long time because I did not understand what the hell this guy was talking about. Not that I consider myself to be some giant message-bearing messiah of a writer. Not at all. I write fun comics. That's what I do. That's my goal. But then as I started to really study things like movies and stuff, people say my comics are very cinematic in their tone. There's a reason for that. I would watch things like, for example, Alien, right? Everybody's going to start bashing me. Alien's great. I'm not saying it's bad. Alien is a super simple story.
It is.
But here's the kicker, and this is why I think it works. Well, it works on a couple levels, but it's a very, very simple story with a gigantic world attached to it. The world building of Alien is massive. I'm talking about just Alien, not the franchise, the original Alien movie. It's a massive world that we just get little nuggets of throughout the film Alien. But the movie is very simple. It's basically just Jaws. There's a monster chasing people, eating people. It's a very simple story. So I'm like, God damn, that story is so easy to tell in so many ways. Like I said, it's Jaws. But it's entertaining, and the world is such that it really sucks you in, and you're so absorbed, especially back then because there's no CGI, right? It's all real. All this stuff, all these sets are real. So you're like, man, the world just sucks you right in. And then you get this ABCDE story that's very simple, that's still good. But then it started to push me back to this guy. Like, story doesn't matter. It's the entertainment value that comes with your story, whatever it may be. And I started to be like, God damn. And I started to see this everywhere now. I'm like, none of these stories are as great as we think they are. They're just fun. And in 99% of the cases, they have huge worlds that, we want to know more about. Look at Star Wars. Star Wars is a super easy story, but we get dropped into the middle of a spaceship fight, landing over a planet that we don't know about. There's freaking robots running around. Like, what is going on?
We keep going back to this planet too. It's like everything in the
Yeah.
entire universe revolves around the planet Tatooine.
Right. And again, the most boring planet in the universe, right? But we got to keep going back.
Yeah,
So from a storytelling standpoint, it's the guy was basically sort of right. It's like, keep it simple, keep it relatable, I think is really the key. Keep it relatable, whether it's comedy, whether it's horror, whether it's a thriller, whatever. Keep it relatable to your audience and just build the world off of that relatable bubble. and they should get enthralled with what's happening around the characters at the same time as they're interested in bow, poof, boom, whatever.
That
pew, pew.
That bam, pop, all those effects need to mean something too, I think.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Absolutely. And you set that up, and I agree 100% with what you're saying, which, by the way, let me just go back and just clarify that I'm not comparing myself to Alan Moore ever. I don't want to be compared to Alan Moore. No, thank you. No, thank you. I respect the man, but no, there is absolutely nothing we have in common. He's British, not Jewish. So there's a big difference right there, all right? But going back to what you were saying, it's like, I think a lot of people, particularly when they're buying into something new, they're buying you first. And what you offer is kind of what's going to get them to stay for that. Because every story is simple. Every story's got to have that ABCD approach, right. Even the most complex ones.
Well, not always. I mean, look at crap like Inception and things like that. Like, he's trying too hard on some of these things. God, Interstellar, right? It's just, you're trying a little too hard. Not to say that they're not fine.
I actually fell asleep while I was watching Inception because it was a dream within a dream within a dream, and then I just fell asleep.
He kept changing his rules. So was the problem there. But but what I'm saying, some writers, some creators come out and they try to be this grandiose. Like, look at The Watchmen, right? The Watchmen is not an easy story. Talking about Alan Moore, it's not an easy story. But then when he does League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it eases up. It's more of a straight adventure story. There's not a lot of like forward and backward storytelling and so on. So, and The Watchmen was popular. So it's not to say that you can't go crazy with your story and not be successful. But entertainment and fun, I think, is what will be remembered first and foremost for anything that you're writing. If your audience is entertained when they're done, they will come back for more.
Tom, we are at the end of our show, and I want to thank you for filling in the time. Bless your heart. Thank you so much. Everybody, please back Tom's campaign right now, because he basically helped. He helped me out of an awkward moment. I really appreciate that. Our second guest, unfortunately, was not able to come, but hopefully they'll be here next time. There must have been some kind of communication error. But Tom, thank you so much for being here. Best of luck to you with your Kickstarter. And we are going to be off next week, but we'll be back next week with another guest, and we're gonna keep this thing going. So in the meantime, Tom, good luck with your Kickstarter. Please go back his campaign and have a great one, guys.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube, and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner.